Hans, there's a schedule to all of this, so tell us what you've learned about the budget thus far.
Well, we know what the top line numbers are, and the top line numbers are $3.8 trillion. That's a one-year budget that will have a deficit of about $744 billion. Now, over the 10-year period, and I'm going to switch now to 10-year numbers because this is what you talk about in terms of a grand budget deficit, some sort of bargain. There's 1.8 in new deficit-cutting measures. Now, that's an equal mix or 2-to-1 mix of spending to tax cuts. The tax increases, I should say, the tax increases are $580 billion. That's over 10 years. But on the health savings side, $400 billion. Most of that is on Medicare. This is what's aggravating the president's supporters on the party's progressive wing because they say he's already starting from a position of weakness. What White House officials are saying is that this is an opening bid. It's also an offer, and that Republicans will not get cuts to entitlements unless they agree to those tax increases. But, Eric, on the tax increases, they're all more tax revenues, not by increasing rates, but by closing what the White House calls loopholes. Eric?
So, Hans, the president is due to speak at 11 o'clock. We'll, of course, be taking those remarks live. What I'd like to know from you is what can he say there that will prevent this budget proposal from being a non-starter?
Well, his challenge is really to talk to both his own party and say, trust me on this, while also continuing to reach out to House Republicans. Remember, he has that dinner tonight with Senate Republicans. Now, just in a few minutes, we're going to get John Boehner. He's going to be reacting to the budget. And it's a question that if Boehner says this is dead on arrival, that he doesn't think this is a serious proposal, then the president has a little more leeway at 11, and he can then tack to the left and turn this into a campaign issue. But if Boehner gives him, Stephanie, just a little bit of room here, look for the president to try to have a compromised position, and so he can somehow revive these grand talks so that you can actually replace sequestration, which so far the White House, it hasn't had the effect that the White House is saying, but we still have a whole lot more economic data to come to just see what the GDP is at this quarter.
Hans,
Stephanie?
what do we know about spending in the plan?
Well, there are aspects of it where it goes up, right? So there's an effort for new money for roads and bridges. This is part of the president's strategy all along. He talked about this during the campaign. He wants to have $50 billion for new roads and infrastructure. He wants a private public infrastructure bank. He also wants to float some new bonds off that Build America Bonds program that was in the initial stimulus. So there's a little bit of front-end spending. Some might say a lot. Nothing that would replace the sort of money that you sucked out by having the payroll tax cut expire, but there is some additional spending. But in the back years, that's really where they start paying down the deficit. You get to about 1.8% deficit 10 years out. But remember, Paul Ryan's plan, that gets you to zero. So there's still a ways away.